Trade also a priority for the president, a long-standing one. He's been talking about it for 20 years. And one of the issues where he could potentially, should anyway, gain some Democratic support, because many Democrats have been talking about it for 20 years as well. Maria Bartiromo has been watching it the whole time. She's an anchor and global markets editor both here at Fox and the Fox Business Network, and probably the most popular person in our building. And she joins us tonight. But so, Maria, what you make the point that this could potentially be the one issue where there's bipartisan agreement.
Oh, well, look, China has been an issue for the Democrats for a long time, as you just said, Tucker. And we'll see what the president says about China tonight. This is one of the most important issues that he can talk to us about tonight. Obviously, the usual suspects are on the agenda: immigration, trade, infrastructure, prescription drug prices. But when you're talking about trade, the China talks go well beyond just trade. I'm going to be speaking with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo tomorrow on Fox Business at 7 a.m. And I'm going to ask him about the military side of China, because right now what you have going on is so-called Confucius centers in and around Silicon Valley, where they're acting like a seeding place, where they're sharing research. People are working at Stanford, back to the Confucius centers. There's a lot of sharing of information going on with China away from trade. There is also issues about espionage. How is the world going to trust China when we know that there's spying going on, that they're talking with African countries and saying, look, we will set up your telecom infrastructure, and then they're tapping right into their entire information and intelligence. There's that. They've even did that with Poland, by the way. Then there's the issue of USMCA, NAFTA 2.0. Will the president give us any news on that tonight? Many Democrats that you've spoken with, I've spoken with, continue to say, I'm not voting for it in the form that it is. If we do not see USMCA pass, that's going to be a major blow for this administration. Because if we can't get a deal done with Canada and Mexico, what does that mean for the Europeans? What does that mean for other countries that the president is trying to do trade deals with? So I would say trade is probably one of the most important issues that the president can discuss tonight. And we'll see what he says. The China story is so much bigger than just the Chinese buying more stuff from the United States. We know that China is willing to open up its markets to financial services. What about the president's manufacturing base? We know that China wants to buy more soybean and more grain. What about IP theft and the forced transfer of technology? These are the important issues. We'll see if the president brings these topics up along with the other list of items.
I mean, it seems like one of those areas, if you're a traditional Democrat anyway, if you're Sherrod Brown of Ohio, it's like, what do you say to that? No, I'm against things that I've said I've been for the entire length of my career. And so you make a very good point. Maria Bartiromo, 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, Fox Business. You're speaking to Secretary Pompeo.
Thank you so much, Tucker.
Some of us will be watching. All right, looking at the screen, the White House, the president's limousine parked right out front, awaiting his entry into it. They'll speed over to Capitol Hill. And then, of course, there's a Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Vice President of the United States, shaking hands with the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, standing at the podium. Of course, the Vice President being the head, at least ceremonially, of the Senate and the tiebreaker. Civics lesson over onto this. Politicians have been promising to increase health care coverage and lower health care costs for decades, and the president may weigh into that tonight in the speech. Do the two parties have anything in common on the question of health care? Fox's Trace Gallagher has been looking closely at this issue and joins us tonight on that. Trace?
Hey, Tucker, when the president talks tonight about his administration's push to lower prescription drug prices, he is building on significant momentum because despite critics going into a fact-check frenzy every time Mr. Trump talks numbers, the Council of Economic Advisors has confirmed the president's claim that during 2018, U.S. consumers saved $26 billion on prescription medication. The president also lobbied some major pharmaceutical companies not to raise their drug prices last summer, and because of easing regulations and speeding up approvals, in fiscal 2018, the FDA approved more generic drugs than ever before. Tonight, you will likely hear the president tout the next step, which is to eliminate rebates. That's money paid by drug manufacturers to make sure their drugs are covered by health insurance companies so that pharmacies can easily sell them to consumers. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar says rebates drive up patients' costs, though some medical experts disagree. Meantime, meantime, on the other side of the aisle, the rallying cry is clearly Medicare for all, with a goal of scrapping private insurers in favor of government-run health care. There are few iterations of single-payer health care, but the common denominator is higher taxes. And as former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg says, quote, Medicare for all would bankrupt us for a very long time. Tucker.
A very long time. Trace Gallagher, thanks very much for that summation. Appreciate it. Well, the Trump presidency has provoked quite a response from the Democratic Party. Democrats are now advocating, in many cases, policies that were considered far too radical, even during the Obama administration 2.5 years ago. You're hearing Democrats campaign on, among other things, Medicare for all, a top tax rate of 90%, a Green New Deal that would ban fossil fuels within 12 years, shut down America's burgeoning energy industry, make commercial air travel impossible, make your car illegal. The shift has been so profound that a majority of Democratic voters told Pew just last month they think their party should be, quote, more moderate. Should it be more moderate? John Summers served as communications director for Senator Harry Reid, and he joins us now. And even as he joins us, of course, you're watching the President of the United States enter his vehicle for the trip down Pennsylvania Avenue to the Congress. John, thanks a lot for joining us tonight.
You bet. Happy to be here.
So this is not, I would argue, where Democratic leaders 2 years ago wanted to be. Losing control over their own party, having people like Ocasio-Cortez set the policy goals for the party. How concerned are Nancy Pelosi and other elders in the party by the direction of?
Yeah, I don't think I would actually define it at all as losing control. I think there's a robust discussion that's taking place right now, and I think it's one that we've talked about before that needs to take place at this moment in time. So I'm one of the many people who's actually excited about the primary that we have coming up, the diverse field of candidates that we have coming up to the plate, because I think they bring a variety of ideas that are worthy of public debate. So we're expanding beyond the typical Republican talking points and Democratic talking points.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Actually looking at solutions for problems that are facing.
Look, I'm for that, and I personally have a lot of crazy ideas, some of which are probably right, some aren't, but I think it's worth airing what you think. I completely agree, and that's why I can't stand the censorship that's underway in this country right now. But some of these ideas are probably non-starters, like shutting down the entire energy industry in 12 years, banning fossil fuels, which would obviously ban commercial air travel. I mean, that's not a thing that anybody supports, right?
I don't think that they're talking about shutting down the energy industry. We're always going to have energy. But what we need to do is make a transition from dirty fossil fuels to clean energy. That's where we are. I mean, President Trump talked a lot about how he's going to put coal miners back to work. More coal plants have closed during the first 2 years of his presidency than the entire first term of Obama.
You know, that's
because we're making a shift toward clean energy. So let's embrace that in the jobs.
But that clean energy is called natural gas, and the United States is the largest producer of it in the world.
Well, there's also natural solar and natural wind.
But that's not why coal has become non-viable, mostly because of natural gas. And the Green New Deal would mandate closing every natural gas well in the country within 12 years and every coal mine and every oil well. So that would mean no more airplanes unless someone can think of a solar airplane. So that's a radical thing, no?
It's obviously something that not every policy proposal someone brings up is going to be perfectly baked when they bring it up. So it's great to have that discussion.
That's okay. I get it. But if I said, look, I just want to round up everyone who disagrees with me and put them in prison. It's just a policy proposal. Maybe it's a little out there. It's a little radical. Somebody would say, yeah.
That's a very different type of radical.
It's crazy. Banning cars and airplanes within 12 years? Shutting down the most vibrant part of our economy? Like, why does nobody say, I'm sorry, AOC or whatever your initials are? No. No one says that.
Well, because no one's actually talking about banning cars. No one's talking about banning airplanes. What they are talking about is finding cleaner, more efficient ways of fueling those things. And so, I think there's a lot more that we're in agreement on. As we look at what President Trump is set to talk about tonight and what Democrats are standing for, there is common ground where Democrats and Republicans can work together. Criminal justice reform, which we know he's going to talk about tonight, obviously been a big issue for Democrats for a long time. Infrastructure. Domino's right now is actually paying to fill potholes. That's not Domino's Pizza job. That's the government's job.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, if government can't take care of the infrastructure, why have a government? But the mandate from the Democratic leaders is, unless it forwards the climate agenda, we're not doing it. Like, that's extremism. Just fill the
No, that's absolutely not true at all. No such mandate exists.
Yes, there
no such mandate
Chuck
exists.
Schumer said that out loud just the other day. We're not for infrastructure unless it comports with the climate agenda. And it's like, really? How about you just keep my bridges from falling down?
I think most people in America support a good, smart infrastructure bill that's going to put people to work and get dominoes out of the
pothole filling business. Let's put you in charge. You can take Schumer's place. Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you, Tucker.
Good to see you. So some of this is pretty radical. Is it a winning message for Democrats? The Federalist Mollie Hemingway has been considering that and joins us tonight. Can you win on this stuff? I think maybe you, by the way, I'm just saying my bias at first. Things that seem crazy seem normal if you say them enough. So I'm not sure what the answer is. What do you think?
And also it's true that a lot of ideas that people have been putting out there for the last few decades aren't actually that great, and it's good to have a fresh name of ideas.
Yes, I do agree with that.
In this case, we're actually dealing with extremely radical ideas that would actually harm people's liberty as well. I mean, we're talking about how unrealistic it is to ban cars or to ban airplanes within 12 years. It would destroy the economy. It would destroy job creation. And that has real effects on people. And so I'm not sure it would go over so well for Democrats to be pushing those ideas. You have something like Medicare for All, which at least sounds good. It's more of a sentiment than an actual policy idea.
Right.
You talk about destroying the economy or banning cars or doing these things that are that have real problems. I don't think there's much of a market for that. It doesn't make sense for people why they should accept something that would tax them to high heaven, destroy any chance that their children will have jobs, and for what?
So at a certain point, like if you have someone who's telling you we need to literally destroy the most powerful sector in our economy, the energy sector, radically increase the scope of entitlements, and then make everyone on planet Earth eligible for those entitlements, what you're really talking about is someone who's advocating for the destruction of your country.
Yeah, it's a tremendous threat to our system of government and to our country. And it's a good way of thinking about what's happening for the Democratic Party right now. Obviously, they did well in the midterms. They took back the House. But a lot of the excitement that's happening in their party is with people who have ideas that they haven't particularly thought through. This was something we saw when Bernie Sanders was running, that even the New York Times said his policy proposals weren't very well thought through. And compared to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, he was brilliant, in thinking through these policies.
I think they're very well thought through. I think these policies are designed to destroy the country. I think they're being advocated by people who hate the country. And I think the aim is really clear. If you love the country, you wouldn't propose this.
They appeal to some people. They're not generally appealing.
No, that's totally true. Mollie, great to see you.
Great to see you.